What's up, everybody? Welcome to our channel, Honest Hockey Takes. I'm Hohen and this is Scott. And in this video, we're going to be sharing our list of top 10 best defensemen in the NHL.
Yeah, so here's what we're going to do for you guys today. Me and Hohen have got together and we've created a consensus list. We each submitted who we thought were the 10 best defensemen. We kind of met in the middle for some of them, and we're going to go over them for you today. Just to kind of clarify once again, like we did with our other videos for centers and the wingers, this is not a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is current top 10 defensemen we feel in the NHL as of today. And we kind of have to clarify that this is going to be a combination of offensively and defensively sound, because we know defensemen get measured by both. So without further ado, Hohen, give us our number 10.
Our number 10 will be Josh Morrissey from the Winnipeg Jets. You know what? This guy proved me wrong. I mean, I didn't think this guy was that good for the last few years, but man, he's really showed up this year and he's been crazy good. Like, he's got more in point per game. But it's not just that. He's actually very defensively sound. He's always has been for the last few years. But I think this year, the reason why we had to put him at number 10 over guys like Morgan Rielly, who AKA won't be on this list, is because he can just drive this year he's driving the offense like no other years I've ever seen him, which is crazy. He's a high draft pick. He's a first round draft pick, high draft pick, and I never thought that he could be like this top end first round pick defenseman, but he's really showing why he's drafted so high now. So
yeah, no, it's crazy actually. This guy took a long time to develop compared to a lot of his other fellow defensemen drafted around the same time. But he's definitely worth the wait. Like, this guy is hard carrying the Jets right now. This team has been one of the surprise teams of the NHL this year, and they're absolutely crushing it right now. They're like 9 games above 500, which is crazy because a lot of people didn't have them even in the playoffs this year. And a big part of it is Josh Morrissey and how well he's played. He's never been a really bad defenseman by any means, but he never had taken the next step until this year. I mean, the guy leads the Jets right now in points. That's wild to me, especially for a defenseman. And like Hohen said, he's still solid in his own zone, and we got to give this guy some respect for once. And ninth on our list, we have Erik Karlsson from the San Jose Sharks. Now, we all know right now this guy is on an absolute tear to the 2022-2023 season. He leads all defensemen in points. The reason we still have him as low as 9 right now on the list is, compared to some of these other guys ahead, we find his defensive game is not quite as strong, even though it has been slightly better than in past years. He's skating a lot better. He has a lot more effort to his game this year than he has in the last 2 or 3, and he's finally healthy, so it's nice to see again.
yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be straight up honest. I don't like this player at all. I never did. But Erik Karlsson, it's undeniable that he is one of the best offensive defensemen in the league. He's really good offensively. There's no question about that. But like Scott alluded to, I just never liked his defensive game. His skating backwards could be better. Getting into position, it could be better. Playing on against guys on the boards could be better. Yeah, just a lot of things.
Yeah, and we do, when we're making these lists, we do have to also go by a bit of last year and this year combined. We can't just go from the first 30 games of this year. So last year, he obviously had a little bit of struggles, so we can't really put him any higher than 9 on our list.
And at number 8, we have Rasmus Dahlin. You know what? I actually quite like this defenseman, but he is a good... To me, he's definitely more of an offensive defenseman, and I like how he's more important per game right now. He's really showing why he's drafted first overall pick that 1 year. It's been a while for him to come into fruition, to be that first overall pick, but I'm glad that he's picking up now. The team that he has in Buffalo is probably the best that he's ever had in any other years that he's been in this organization, so that's good on him. He has a lot of offensive players I can play with now, really good ones in Alex Tugg and Jeff Skinner and Tage Thompson especially, so it's good to see. But in terms of Rasmus Dahlin, I feel like his defensive game still needs a little bit more work. That's why they have Samuelsson on his pairing, which is working out really well for him. But I like how in the defensive side he's been picking up better in other years. So.
Yeah, no, I really like Dahlin's game. I think overall this season he's really come off to not just a hot start offensively, but a lot better defensively than he had been in past years. I watched him like 2 years ago, and it's night and day the difference of this player. It's impressive. And a lot of people will declare someone a bust if they have a really bad 19, 18-year-old season. But defensemen take time, and we're fully getting to see right now what can happen when a guy gets to that 21, 22, 23-year age, and Dahlin's a great example of it, and he's been absolutely dominant for the Sabres and a true pivot for the future of this team. And honestly, if we did this list in a year or two, he could be top 5. Coming in at number 7 on our list, we have Alex Pietrangelo from the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, the Knights as a team have come off to a really good start this year and kind of faltered of late when Pietrangelo has been out of the lineup for personal reasons. And that's because Pietrangelo adds so much to this team. Really, he is something different than any defenseman they have. They got other guys like Theodore who can put up points and guys like Martinez who can block shots. But Pietrangelo is a true, one-of-a-kind, two-way defenseman. This guy can play both sides of the puck. He can get you almost a point per game some years offensively, but he can also be really good in his own zone, really active with his stick in the defensive zone, and also blocking shots as well and boxing people to the outside. His technique is pretty much top tier in this league, probably top 5 caliber defensively, and I just really love this player.
Yeah, not only that, Pietrangelo has good leadership in this locker room as well. That's why he's given the assistant captain. He is a big player as well. He's a tall player,
Yeah,
big
good frame.
player,
Very nice frame.
that which helps him to become a really good two-way defenseman. He has a good offensive upside and very sound defensively. Knows where to be all the time. The positioning is fantastic on this defenseman. And you're seeing what they're missing him right now because look at Vegas, they're kind of struggling a little bit now. They're dipping a little bit. They were really hot with him in the lineup, but yeah.
Yeah, very underrated player. I still think to this day, even though he's been in the league for over 10 years, this guy really truly does carry this defense.
Right, and one last thing to add, the coach that they have now is really bring out his offensive game that I haven't seen from him in about a year. So.
Yeah, this offensive game is really the top we've ever seen from him, I think, in his whole career right now. And I hope it continues because it's a lot of fun to watch.
And at number 6, I have Miro Heiskanen from the Dallas Stars. Miro Heiskanen can even be higher in next year. By next year or by the end of the year, he can even be higher on this list. I just feel like this player is a very, very good hockey player. Ever since he was drafted, I was a big fan of him already because of his two-way game. Unlike some players like we will have later on this list, I feel like I like how Miro Heiskanen is as a young defenseman who is good defensively, which is great to see. He's like Pietrangelo, he is very sound defensively, plays 30 minutes a game, almost 30 minutes a game, which is one of the most impressive things about Miro Heiskanen is that he's so young, but he's having this much responsibilities on this team already.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Miro's game, it's about 2 things. One, his skating. I love how clean his skating is. It's just super smooth, and he gets back really fast on the defensive end, which is nice. Like as Hohen says, he's one of the better defenders on this list by far. And also just the fact that he just is so good with his stick. Like, he's less physical than a lot of other defensemen in the league right now. Actually, I'd say he's probably in like the bottom 20% of physicality wise. But he's making up for it with really great stick work, good poke checks, good laying the stick down to block up passes. Like, the lanes are always clogged with him. It's really good. And the only thing that with him that I would like to see him work on a little bit more as he gets older is when he gets a little bigger, is he uses his size and actually starts hitting people a bit more and being a little more physical and blocking a couple more shots than he has been in the last couple years.
Yeah, and one last thing about Miro Heiskanen, one defenseman that he really reminds me of is Scott Niedermayer. Just the way he plays is very similar to him.
It is a similar style for sure. Yeah. Coming in at number 5 on our list, we have Victor Hedman from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Honestly, if you asked me this a year ago, this guy might be number 1 on my list. But unfortunately, I feel like he's lost a little bit of the step offensively. And on top of that, he's just kind of looked a little slower out there. But overall, this guy's game is still absolutely elite. there's just too many good defensemen right now in the league, too many explosive defensemen, and that's why he's at number 5 on our list. This guy has still got that beautiful 6'6" size that you really love to see in a defenseman. He can box people out on the outside of the perimeter when they're coming into his zone. He's got that long stick where he can poke check people. It's just physically gifted as hell. Like, this guy has it all. And we all got to see over the last few years, and especially last year in the playoff run, what an impact he makes on both ends of the ice for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he is a true part of the reason that this team went to 3 straight Stanley Cups.
Yeah, like Scott just said, one of the things that really pops up to me about Victor Hedman is his size, 6'6" defenseman. There's not many of those around. He's like essentially the Chris Pronger of this era, with the exception of Chris Pronger is much more nasty. Hedman's more nice. I feel like.
Hedman's he's not as physical.
Yeah, he's not as physical, but I like Hedman's offensive game a lot more than Chris Pronger back in the day. So that's the difference there. His reach with the stick is unbelievable because he has such a long stick.
That's my favorite part. Just watching these forwards that are a lot smaller try to come around and he's just like, check that out of the way, man. It's great.
It's like watching these kids having to try to skate around him, right?
Oh yeah, sometimes it looks like you're on the shinny rink with a bunch of like grade 3 kids, and then an adult just is like, no, just slaps that out of the way.
And because he's so big and he's actually decently quick, he can get into shooting lanes pretty good in the playoffs. If you watch him in the playoffs, he actually blocks a lot of shots because he's so big.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, I know he's lost a little bit of a step this year, but I still think for his size, being such a big guy, he skates really well. It's not a knock. I'm just saying he's not quite his prime self maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but he's still absolutely elite, guys. I am not hating on this guy at all. He's still great.
And for those who think that it's because Sergachev has all these points right now that he's a better defenseman, come on, guys. No. Just because Sergachev is playing that power play 1 doesn't mean he's a better defenseman.
No, definitely not. No, there's way more to it, and Hedman just adds so many things to this team.
Yeah. And the next player on the list, at number 4, we have Charlie McAvoy from the Boston Bruins. Actually, this player, when he was drafted, I wasn't really sure about this player when he was first drafted. But when I watched him progressively play more games throughout the season, I started to like his game a lot better because he's physical. He's a big player. He's like a 200-pound defenseman, 6 foot something defenseman who can hit. He's a battle rammer, and can actually skate, and he can actually shoot the damn puck. So good for him. Boston Bruins are so lucky to have this player, and he's on top of that, he's super young. So they got so many mileage with this player.
Yeah, no. So I think honestly, of all the 10 guys we have on this list, I think Charlie might be the most defensively sound of them all. Actually, the knock that I always had with Charlie that kept me out of putting him in my top 5 for years until now is that I didn't think his offensive game had taken the next step yet because he was fairly young and he really wasn't putting up the point numbers that these other megastar defensemen have. But this year and the end of last year, he really showed me. He really ramped up that offensive play and just how well he was able to do everything, basically, whether it's spring someone loose like a pasta for a beautiful pass or like just be able to quarterback a power play like the other big defensemen do. He's really worked on that a lot, and you can tell by him over a point per game to start this season. And on top of that, like as I said, this guy will block shots. He will hit people. He logs like 28 minutes a game. Like really anything you could want from a defenseman, Charlie provides it for you.
Yeah, and look at how much they missed. I mean, they were a really good team when this to start the year, but when Charlie McAvoy came into the lineup,
they were different. They
way
were
better.
Yeah.
They were a way better team with him in the lineup.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy. Actually,
he makes a huge difference.
No, definitely got to give Charlie his props here. Coming in at 3rd on our list, we have Roman Josi from the Nashville Predators. This guy truly is the lifeblood of this team, guys. When I think of Nashville, all I can think of right off the top of my head is Roman Josi. This guy is one of my absolute favorite players, and it's just impressive what he's managed to do with this team. This is a defensive-minded team that doesn't really produce a lot of offense for years and years, but yet guys like Roman Josi almost hit 100 points last year. He's like almost at a point per game again this year. Like, it's actually ridiculous what he does. He literally drives that offense, and very few teams can say their defenseman drives an offense. And on top of that, the guy is actually so good at blocking shots. He's near the top of the leaderboard almost every year in block shots, and it's just been absolutely just everything that Nashville could ask and more. They could never lose this guy, or they would just be trash.
Yeah, out of all the players on this list, actually, this is probably my personal favorite defenseman that's on this list, just because of his combination of good body of defensive work, and he's extremely good offensively, which surprised me last season of getting 90 some points, which really,
That was wild.
which is absolutely wild, and I definitely should have won the Norris over Cale Makar. No offense.
100% agree. Should have got that.
Yeah, because he's like Scott said, he is the bloodline of this team. And when you think about Nashville Predators, you automatically think about Roman Josi.
He should have been nominated for MVP last year.
Yeah.
He should have been one of those three.
Yeah,
it's crazy that he wasn't.
He should have won. He should have totally won the Norris. That's just so stupid. But in the end of the day, he is super good at. He's definitely top 3 defenseman still. He's a big sized defenseman. Like Scott said, he can block shots. On top of that, he has a hell of a shot. He can find players on. He's just a good quarterback on the power play.
And he's fast as heck. Man, watching this guy come up the wing, he can skate. For a big boy, he can sure move it. Like kind of like Hedman, but actually a little faster than Hedman.
Oh yeah.
Like it's actually unreal what this guy can do. He's like a wizard out there, and definitely deserving of number 3 on this list.
Yep. And coming in at number 2, we have Adam Fox from the New York Rangers. I like Adam Fox, although he's not my favorite defenseman, but I like him because his offensive upside, his offensive game is extremely elite. There's no question about that. I never knew who when he was traded from Calgary. I thought, oh, who's this guy? Why did New York Rangers want this guy that badly? And now I know why. Because this guy is truly elite offensively. You watch him quarterbacking that power play. He can find play. He has a good shot, good release on the point. And on top of that, he's got good passes. So good on him.
Yeah, this guy's another pretty complete defenseman. The only thing I really think he'd be lacking is the size, which, I mean, to be fair, we can't knock him because, I mean, you can't just teach size. So it doesn't really work that way. But this guy adds such an offensive punch to this team. He's able to carry up the puck similar to some other guys in the league that we've talked about. And also he quarterbacks the power play beautifully. He's a big reason why New York was in the Final Four last year. He had such a brilliant playoff run. Like, we can't ignore this. And the guy already won a Norris before he was 25 years old. That's crazy. A Norris that young, he got it before Cale Makar got a Norris. Like, I mean, that's incredible. And just his a way that he's able to block shots and still kill penalties and do the defensive responsibilities he's asked for without being a liability like some of the other defensemen on our list that might be good offensively, but they're not so good in their own zone. Fox isn't like that. He can do both parts. Maybe not as defensively amazing as like a guy like Charlie, but still very high caliber defender.
Yeah, and also a really good skating defenseman. Now the top 5 defensemen, they're all good at skating. So yeah.
Big part of today's game.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, and speaking of good skating, our number 1 defenseman we have on our list, Cale Makar, of course, from the Colorado Avalanche. This guy is beyond explosive. It is just ridiculous to watch this guy. How fast he got to 200 points in this league, fastest to ever do it, like absolutely wild. And just what he was able to do in the playoffs last year, he was just absolutely dominant. Got Colorado to a Stanley Cup. They won the Cup. The guy won the Norris last year. Really, he did everything in a season you could ask. He even won the Conn Smythe at the end of the playoffs. Like, this guy literally could be the best defenseman season ever. I mean, if you actually look at it, he won both trophies, the playoff one and the regular season, and he won a Stanley Cup. What more could you ask?
To me, Cale Makar is the second most valuable and the second most dynamic player in the NHL. Not only like he is so valuable. He's one of the craziest defensemen I've ever seen in my generation. Just the combination of his speed. He's the only one that who has the speed to backpedal and catch to Connor McDavid, as you saw in that playoffs. He's the only defenseman that can do that. There's no other defenseman that can do that. No, none. That just shows how good his skating is. His skating is absolutely explosive, absolutely dynamic. The way that he can jump into rushes, to jump into scoring chances is like Colorado has an extra elite forward on the team. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's a huge reason why they won the Stanley Cup. even though they didn't have a good goaltender in Darcy Kemper, who was absolutely trash. Let's be real. They didn't need a good goalie. They just had all these crazy defensemen on the team with Devontae's and him. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I used to knock this guy, not knock him as in like he wasn't like top 5, but I used to say that this guy wasn't in my personal top 2 best defensemen in the league for years. But last year he really changed that for me. He won me over because last year he showed me he could play on the defensive end of the puck as well. He wasn't just a one-trick pony who could go up the ice and score a million goals and get like 90 points. He actually showed me he could back check, especially in the playoffs. I liked what he did, especially that series against Edmonton, how he would play Connor, how he played Draisaitl. I really liked it, and he won me over completely, and he is very, very deserving now, I can officially say, as number 1 on our list for best defenseman in the NHL. But as we know, we can only have 10 of these guys, so these are the 10 we got for you today. We obviously had to leave some notable omissions. Guys like John Karlsson, of course, Aaron Ekblad, and Chris Letang, guys who have probably been there for past years, but just sadly this year, we just didn't find that they were quite as good as the other 10. If you guys disagree, let us know in the comments below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and we will see you on our next video. Take care.
Take care, guys. Bye.